So when you're building a form for epoxy, you have two options. Use a material that the epoxy isn't going to stick to, or line it with something that the epoxy isn't going to stick to. I have a variety of tapes, which is a common solution. So I'm going to walk through some different tapes and see which ones the epoxy stick to and which ones don't. Some of these I know work well because I've used them. Some of them I don't expect to work well, and we're going to see what's happened. As you can see, I have 4 boards laid out though, because there's a few more factors than just what material. You can add things to your material like wax or spray. So this is a silicone mold release spray, or both, that should help the epoxy not stick and release better. So we're going to do some plain, some with just wax, some with just spray, some with wax and spray, see if those things make a difference on the different types of tapes. And then we'll have a few other materials. I'm going to try some kitchen stuff, parchment paper, wax paper, and cling wrap. I think there's a certain application where these might be handy, and I'll talk about that when we get into it. But let's wax and spray these up and get ready to put some epoxy on them. So for epoxy, I'm going to use some Total Boat Thick Set because it is a very viscous epoxy. I use this and 2-to-1 epoxy the most, but 2-to-1 is pretty thick. And one of the things I want to test is on the tape, you have to overlap the tape to completely cover an area. So I want to see if anything's going to get inside that little seam, and a thicker epoxy like 2-to-1 is less likely to. But if you're making a mold, there's also a good chance you're going to be using something more viscous like a deep pour or a thick set. So I want to be able to test that. Total Boat isn't sponsoring this video, but they do sponsor a lot of my videos because I like their product and we have a good relationship. Now I'm also going to add a little bit of pigment to this just to help see it, because, well, epoxy is clear and it's going to be easier to see if it's got a little bit of color. So mix this up and then pour it on everything. And yes, I should be wearing a respirator while I do this. This is low VOC, but it's always smarter to have, you know, respiratory protection on. But I wasn't smart enough to think that I should voice over this instead of talking to the camera. So I'm talking to the camera. So I'm going to shut up, stop this, and put my respirator on while I mix this for another 2 or 3 minutes. I've got to do other work while this stuff dries. I poured it yesterday, so move the boards, but I think these are dried enough to give them a shot, so let me bring you in close, because, yeah, they're already popping off. Okay, wax paper first. Now, I've used this before on a glue up, and they release pretty well. Boom, look at that. I mean, see, it's still soft, but as it cures more, it's not going to stick. The parchment paper, I crinkled it to keep it from running off. This came off even easier than the wax paper. Both a win. Parchment paper's easier. Now, cling wrap. Oh yeah, looks like cling wrap works too. That was pretty easy. Of course, there's is some texture. Oh, that's not quite cured, so it's kind of clinging some. But yeah, looks like all 3 of these worked. So the deal with the cling wrap is, if, like, I don't know, maybe for casting kind of stuff, or if you had a weird shape you needed to protect from epoxy, I just thought it would be cool to find out, and it doesn't stick. Okay, so all this ended up drying about 2 weeks, a little longer than I intended, but I've got my putty knife, so I'm gonna start poking stuff and see what I can get off. I know the tuck tape releases, so I'm gonna go down the line and see if the different coatings make a difference first. All right, let's just try bending. Yeah, nothing. That popped off pretty easy. Okay, that was even easier, it seemed like. And let's see about this little dude. Yep, that popped off easy. This one, or that was the wax. This is no wax, but had the silicone release. Yeah, not quite as, I had to bend a little bit more than the wax, but a little less than the nothing. Yeah, and the little drops popped right off. And doesn't seem like anything seeped in between. Oh, yeah, that pops right off. Now let's try the wax and spray. Yep, again, pop right off, super easy. Oh, geez, yeah, this was definitely came off the easiest. So the wax and the spray combination does help. Let's do the same thing with the next tape. $12 tuck tape worked like we thought it would. This was a little cheaper. This is the dolphin tape that was at Home Depot. Oh, yeah. That seemed to work just as well. Let's go ahead and try packing tape. Yeah, that came off fine. The biggest issue is just breaking the seal. Once you break the seal though, it peels right off. Let's see if wax is any easier. All right, it's gonna have to get under this. I think that's because I dug into the tape. So interestingly, the dolphin tape seemed to do better with nothing. The wax made it worse. That's weird. So the wax helped on the tuck tape, made this worse. What about the packing tape? Nope. Nah, packing tape did just fine. It was just a matter of getting under it. But yeah, it came off the packing tape real easy. Some of it ran off though and soaked into the board. Now the wax and release. Okay. So this took a little bit more to break the seal than the tuck tape. Yeah, I can see the discoloration here, but because it ran off, it's not coming as easy. Or excuse me, this is just the release, not the wax and release. So the release helped the dolphin tape, the wax made it worse. And the, $2, $3 packing tape seems to be working just fine with whatever you do. Well, the wax wasn't as good, but the release is helping and bare this worked. All right, now the wax and the spray duo. The wax made these work, but the wax made these worse, but the spray worked. So this should be interesting. All right, I was able to break a little bit there. Okay. Yeah, that came off fine. No. That came off fine too. And then these little buttons, yeah, they scrape off without any issue. All right. Now, the ones that I wasn't sure about that were kind of the question mark. So, bare duck, whoa. So nothing added to Gorilla Tape. I think this is Gorilla Tape. And it popped right off. Yeah, I mean it sticks, you can see, I can't believe that. It popped right off. All right, so the wax should probably do easier, I bet. Oh yeah, look at that. Again, wax and spray. Oh yeah, the wax and the spray, that's super easy. That came right off the Gorilla Tape. Now what about just the release? I imagine this will do fine too. You can see it actually all ran right off of one of them. Oh yeah, look at that discoloration. Boom, too easy. Wow, okay. Now the blue tape, I really don't expect this to work because this is basically paper and I imagine it's going to soak into the paper. Yeah, that's not, the little buttons are not popping off. Let's try the bend. Yeah, I can't bend it. So interestingly, it seemed to soak through the blue tape, but oh, I guess the adhesive on the blue tape acted as a barrier to keep it from soaking into the hardboard, because as you can see on the bare hardboard, this dark outline, it soaked right into the hardboard. I doubt I can, yeah, no. It's soaked in, so it's part of the hardboard now. So bare hardboard, no go. If you want your blue tape stuck to your epoxy, I guess it sort of works, but I don't know who would want that. Let's try the wax. Or let's bend first. Oh, whoa. Holy crap, that popped right off. I did not expect that. So wax on the hardboard, if you just get enough wax on here, that's perfect. Let's try the blue tape. Eee. Alright, so you can see the blue tape didn't totally stick, but some of it still fuzzed and stuck, so even wax alone on the blue tape isn't enough, which this is more of a novelty kind of test anyways on the blue tape. Alright, this is the wax and spray. Again, geez, yeah, the hardboard wax and spray even easier. Oh, it popped up on the edges. Yeah, I've got the same kind of thing going where it's kind of sticking, kind of not sticking. So yeah, blue tape, definitely a no-go. And here is just the release, no wax. Yeah, again, I can even see how it's soaked in. And yeah, same kind of thing on the blue tape. The adhesive on the tape was a barrier, but it just soaked into the paper tape. I'm not going to fight that anymore. Okay, now I know it doesn't stick to this white marker board melamine stuff. This one was waxed. I got mixed up. One of these was had nothing, and one of them had just the silicone spray. Let's see how this goes. I've got some bubbles here. Well, that's tuck tape, yeah. Yeah, bubbles popped right off of that. Let's give this the old... So this is really hard to bend, but all of them popped off. The waxed one popped the easiest by far. Yep. That takes almost no effort, but the waxed one, just bending it. So waxing this does make a difference in how easy it releases, far more than whichever one of these were the spray. The spray and the not spray, I forget which was which, but they seem to be about the same. Wax, huge difference. Well, that was really interesting. Looks like so long as you use any shiny tape is what I'll call it, any glossy smooth tape, the epoxy is going to come off of it. On the tuck tape, the wax definitely helped. On the regular packing tape and this Dolphin hybrid poly hanging and seaming tape, the wax kind of hurt, but the wax and the silicone on all those worked great. The duct tape did just fine. Surprisingly, which blew me away, or Gorilla Tape. I don't know if that would apply to all duct tapes or not, because each one of them is probably a little bit different, but so long as it's smooth and doesn't feel fabricy, I think it's going to work. Wax and silicone release spray worked great. The blue tape was just an utter fail, and surprisingly on the hardboard, so long as it got waxed, that worked great. And of course, as we already knew, the melamine works great, and if you wax it, it definitely releases. Anyway, I hope you learned something, were inspired, or at least entertained, and until next time, make time to make something.